Good afternoon. Welcome to the 2020, the Honorable Judge A. Leon Higginbotham Memorial Voting Rights Braintrust. This year's theme is Our Votes, Our Voices, They Matter. We have a fantastic panel today. Before I introduce them, I just want to say a few words about why our votes and our voices matter. Each presidential election, we hear the statement, this is the most important election of our lives. Well, this year, that is truly the case. We have a divided country and unqualified people appointed to positions of power, people who choose to decimate public education and implement cruel immigration policies and choose winners and losers, but they never choose us. We are suffering under voter suppression tactics that include dismantling of postal operations to lies about voter fraud and the integrity of voting from home. All of this is happening before a general election where more Americans than ever will need to vote by mail due to a mismanaged coronavirus pandemic response. Even more frightening, we are quickly approaching 200,000 Americans who have died from the coronavirus, deaths that are the direct result of failed leadership. The voter suppression affects everyone, communities of color, persons with disabilities, and returning citizens are clearly being targeted. That is why I am looking forward to today's conversation with our panelists who use their celebrity and their voices to express the urgency of voting. Erica Alexander is an actress, activist, creator, director, and producer. You may recognize her as Maxine Shaw in the sitcom Living Single, among other roles. Erica is also the co-founder of Color Farm Media and producer of the documentary John Lewis, Good Trouble. Yvette Nicole Brown, a native of East Cleveland, Ohio, in my congressional district, is an actress, activist, producer, singer, and television host. You may recognize her from the role of Shirley Bivens, Michael Bivens' mother in the New Edition story. Mike Coulter is an actor and activist. For superhero fans, you probably recognize him as Marvel's Luke Cage. He currently stars in the hit CBS supernatural drama Evil, in which he earned a 2020 Critics' Choice nomination. Our final panelist is Malcolm Jamal Warner, an actor, activist, director, producer, poet, and musician, and we all know him as Theo from The Cosby Show. He has directed and produced episodes of that show and others and appeared on stage and screen. Along with their day jobs, today's panelists use their celebrity voices to advocate for change in our country. Whether the issue is racial justice, voter suppression, or disparities in healthcare, they have put it all out there on the line. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining me for this Voting Rights Braintrust. Thank you so very, very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Now, let us begin. Tell me why, and we'll just do this in any order. I like conversation. So tell us why it is important that every eligible American, especially African Americans, vote in this election. Erica, why don't we start with you?
Yes, ma'am. Excuse me. I would have the frog in my throat, but I will not have a frog in my vote. Do you hear me?
Absolutely.
You know what we were just talking about, and thank you so much for inviting me. And I really appreciate all the work that you do, your staff, everything that you do really matters. And we need to uplift our wonderful leadership that we have. The vote is sacred. And I think there's no greater symbolism or tribute that we can give to the people who fought for it, life and limb, for our right to do it. And I think there are wonderful young people that are mobilizing and organizing around it, but so many people take it for granted. And I always say, be present or be a peasant. You know, your vote is your voice. And since you mentioned Good Trouble, John Lewis, and to give honor to him and a tribute, that's a man who put his life on the line as collateral because he believed and hated. He believed that the vote was sacred, but also he hated racism and he hated discrimination. So he was willing to change the world by doing that. So that's why I think it's important. They have shown over years and years and years, that if they're willing to take it away at these great at these great efforts, then we should make a greater effort to make sure that they cannot take it away.
Thank you. Malcolm, come on with it.
Well, first, Rep. Flush, thank you for having me as part of this conversation. I'm honored to be able to participate. I think when you look at there are people who have given their lives for us to have the right to vote. And there are people who have taken lives for us not to have the right to vote. So that in itself already shows you the power of our vote. And I think what happens especially as African Americans, we have this, there's this prevailing deep feeling that we have that neither party really cares for Black people. And I think that is it's a valid argument and I think a necessary conversation to have. But there's also a bigger picture in that as African Americans, we cannot take ourselves out of the equation of being an American. And there's a saying, when America catches a cold, the Black community catches pneumonia. We're at a place where there are 80% of the country believes that we are going in the wrong direction. So it's in everyone's self-interest to vote to make their voices heard. At the end of the day, it's the most patriotic thing that you can do, you know? And when you have, look, when it comes to Black, Black people in the military, there's nothing more patriotic than people giving their lives to defend freedoms that they have to fight themselves for the right to enjoy. So when it comes to actual voting, it's, like I said, it's the most patriotic thing that you can possibly do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My homegirl, come on, Yvette.
Hey, homegirl. This is my thought. We can't do anything from the outside. There's a lot of us that have been disenfranchised and saddened by what we see in the world. You can't fix it by standing on the outside and just talking about how bad it is. I voted in every single election that we've had. I will vote for dog catcher. I will vote for sheriff. I will vote for alderman. I'll vote for whatever is there because I want my hand in all of that. I understand that if I don't vote for the judge, if one of my friends has to go stand in front of that person, I want to have a say in who is deciding my friend's future. In the same way, I want to say in who's deciding whether I have health care or not, or whether who I can marry. And all of these things are important. This is not a game. And I think for too long, we've been told that it's not important and we can sit it out or they don't care about us anyway. And to those people, I say, well, then you probably should run for something.
Right.
But again, it goes back to nothing gets done when you stand on the sidelines and just comment. You have to get in the game. And I think some people feel like they don't know enough, but we've seen enough in the last 3 or 4 years to know that you don't have to know a lot to get in the game. So I would say educate yourself and then decide that you want to take part and then get in there, because it's not a small thing right now to say that this is the election that we're fighting for our lives in this particular election, because we literally are dying by the thousands every single day. And there are people that are in power that make the decisions as to whether we will get PPE, whether we will get health care. All of those things matter. So I'm with Erica with what we need to do for Rep. Lewis. I mean, this is the good trouble that he talked about. This in particular on November 3rd is the good trouble he talked about. Get in there and get in some good trouble. That's my thought about it.
Thank you. Mike, let me just ask you a question. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. We hear a lot of people, your contemporaries in particular, who will say it doesn't matter whether I vote. It really doesn't matter whether I vote or not. Even though we elected the first Black president by our votes, they say it doesn't matter. Let me just throw a few numbers at you and see what you think about it. The state of Michigan was won by 11,000 votes. It is estimated that 200,000 Black people in Detroit alone did not vote. That Pennsylvania was won by 44,000 votes. but the estimate is that 350,000 eligible Black voters did not cast ballots. In Wisconsin, Wisconsin was won by 23,000 votes, and reports indicate that 129,000 Black people did not vote. Michael, tell me what you think is going on in our communities and what you think needs to be done from here.
You know, those numbers are shocking, but I was aware of those numbers, and it's telling us that we do make a difference in a very, very big way. The voter suppression that's going on in this country is not as obvious as it was back in the 60s. What they're doing now, I see things about polls all the time, and I tell people, stop worrying about these polls. I don't know who these polls are, who they're talking to with these polls. These polls are designed to get you to quit before you start. They're telling you the race is tight. We don't know these numbers. These numbers are things they just put on TV to keep you in a mindset that says it doesn't matter. It's so close. My one vote won't count. When you look at those numbers, it's embarrassing because I think, as Malcolm said earlier, our people died for the right to vote, to be involved in this conversation. And so when you think about all the time you talk about our ancestors, the things that was sacrificed in our behalf, it's embarrassing. If you think about my grandfather who fought for the right to vote and was one of the first people in a small town to own land, if they were alive and they were talking to the generation today, what was the sacrifice made for? So when you look at those numbers, it's not small. We're talking about more than double, 3-4 times what it would have taken to change the race. Those people stayed home. So that right there tells you, because people always think it's so close. That's not even close. The Republicans have said, if we show up, they will never be in office again. What does it take for us to understand that we have the weight, the necessary power to be involved and to play the game? Because you can't continue to say things about the game. They always say, hate the game, don't hate the player. But this is what this is. You have to be involved, and we have to get involved in a very big way. And there's no excuse at this point. There's no excuse for anything. I mean, you talk about the social media, the information is out there. People are doing, platforms, are using their platforms in big ways. We have to get involved because this is a necessity at this point.
Thank you. It's interesting that as we hear about Russian influence and Iranian influence, do you know who they target most? They target us.
Target us.
Yes.
Because they know, unlike so many of us, they know that if they stop us from voting, or if they make us vote for a candidate that may not be and have our best interests at heart, that they can win whatever they want. They always target Black people because they know the power of our vote. It is we who don't know the power of our vote. So what do you say to some person that says, you know what, I'm just not gonna vote?
Well,
what do you do to persuade them? Come on, I see you, Yvette, come on.
I feel like I'm beating my head against a wall because I've been crying for years about this. I think what we forget, and I even forgot this recently, there's voter suppression and then there's voter depression. And I'm learning now that as they try to stop us from being able to mail our votes in, or they're trying to rezone stuff, or they have lawsuits and all this stuff going on, that's the suppression part. But the depression part are the trolls and bots who have a Black face in the Abbey, who are pushing out the ideas that nobody cares about us and you need to get off the plantation and all of this crap. It makes us feel as if there is no hope. And it's insidious because it's one or two little tweets or one or two little posts that look like they're coming from us. So it seems like there's a groundswell in the same way Mike mentioned the polls where it looks like someone's already losing. This groundswell of there's no hope makes us feel like all is already lost. And we're so used to having a boot on our neck in this country that we can start to think, it's always going to be bad. We're never going to get ahead. And like you said, Rep. Fudge, forgetting that Barack Obama was president. So we've already proven that when we all show up, we can change things. And whether you love a candidate or not, you have to pick the one that will get in and put enough people in to help you. We already know the ones that don't want to help us. So you should at least put your vote behind those that do. And again, I'm going to keep saying it. If you don't like it, run for something. This is not like just a us and them. If you want to make a change and you don't see it on the ballot, you can run. Not in this election. In this election, you vote for what we got. And then after that, you can put yourself in the game and run for something if you feel principled and feel like you're the one that can make things better. But you can't sit it out. Not this one. What are we at? 180, how many people are dead today?
180? Almost 170,000 for sure.
170,000 are dead. This is because of something that happened that was not handled correctly by someone in power. So we have to make a change. You have to. And everyone, with that amount of people, everybody knows somebody who has died from this virus or knows someone who died of this virus. It's coming to all of our doorsteps in one way or another. And that is a leadership issue at this point. So you have to vote. You have to.
Let me ask this question, and then you can say it however you want to. So do you think that we are paralyzed by hopelessness? Is that why we don't vote? I saw Malcolm get ready to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think hopelessness is something that, wherever we are in life, is something that we all, struggle with, deal with. The thing that I try to remind people of is political apathy, voting apathy is by design. So for those of us, I mean, we are made to feel like our vote doesn't count, our vote doesn't matter. So by taking that in, I always remind people that we're taking the bait. The voting apathy is it's another level of psychological voter suppression, if you will, but it's by design. And I think there's also, an issue in that we like to have, our information spoon-fed to us. So we know most about presidential campaigns. And when we focus on just presidential campaigns and, we feel like things don't get done for our benefit, it's because we're so focused on the presidential campaigns that we're not looking at our local officials. I think what's been really interesting about, this whole pandemic that really stuck out is you have a president saying one thing when it comes to prevention and mask and social distancing, and then you have local officials who are saying something completely different. You've got governor. I'm in Georgia right now, right? So we've got a governor saying one thing. We've got city officials saying no. City officials have more of an investment in you as a citizen. It's an investment that the presidential campaigns are not going to have. So part of the reasons of feeling our voice isn't being heard is because we are not involved in electing the officials who are going to have a vested interest in who we are as constituents of our cities. If that makes sense.
And you know what? You're absolutely right. I tell people all the time, you will meet me more often than you'll ever meet the president of the United States. But you won't come out and vote in my election, but you'll vote in theirs. I mean, and that's just what it is. These are people that I touch, that I see in the grocery store, that I see when I'm in my yard, but they think the presidential election is more important than the one that I'm in. Everybody just jump in. I'm seeing hands. Just go ahead and just get
Can I say something? Because I want to talk a little bit about storytelling, because Yvette and Malcolm are right. And good to see you, Mike.
Good to see you too.
Okay. Anyway, and your new stuff, Evil, which is a pretender of what we're dealing with right now. Anyway, the storytelling narrative is exactly what Yvette's talking about. For many years and decades, Black people have been targeted, even before the Russians, in a way that has been psychologically damaging. We came from a people that showed us, from Fannie Lou Hamer on, Malcolm X, that not only was our vote, and say what you want to say about the differing opinions, but that we not only mattered, but we had really powerful personal agency. And then the 70s and 80s came and took that feeling and mantra away from us. And then it started to also infect in the story we told ourselves about how important we were. And the story that seems to have stuck is the fact that we're like, no matter what we do, it won't matter. But that's actually not true, because Black people actually know and have seen that that's not the case, that we are able to see from when they were marching on the street, the differences now. And you're absolutely right about local elections, that local elections not only matter, they make the most difference of all. But we don't now live in that world. We live in a world where we have accepted that the storytelling narrative of us is that we're powerless. And the first thing we have to do is start to inculcate us with stories and mythology of our greatness. And more importantly, the thing that we brought to this country, which is that we literally were brought across the ocean to rock their world and make their planets twirl. We have been doing that since we got here. We do that with our art. We do that with our talent. When we come into a room, you'll say anything. So, oh, there's Kobe, there's Serena, something's about to happen. But when we go into the voting booth, we go, oh, ain't nothing gonna happen. And that's actually not true. We should totally give ourselves the superhero mantra that we're giving our mythological athletes and bless him, Chadwick Boseman. We are kings and queens only if we use our agency to change the world around us. And African Americans, 13% of this country and population, have shown that not only do we change America, we change the world with culture. So if we can just do that in the voting, we change everything.
Go ahead, Mike.
You know, I think what we're seeing now is, especially right now, we're seeing the ability for us to make great change, especially, I always say, when you look at how people react to what you're doing, you can tell that you're on the right track. When something, up until this year, 4 years ago, I think, Kaepernick took a knee. Nobody was listening to him. Now everybody, ears perked up. They were willing to have a conversation. They were willing to hear and negotiate and to give something. What I always tell people, you have more power than you realize, because going to what Erica said, we are where it begins and where it ends in the culture. We do so much, yet we get so little in return. Everything about us is mental. We believe somehow that we need people and they don't need us. And it's actually the reverse. And so when we gain that psyche that says, wait a minute, if I stop doing what I'm doing, does it mean more to them or does it mean more to me? And I think we always feel like they have the leverage, that in some way, and you look at it right now in the professional leagues, and I'll be honest, I haven't watched in so long because I'm so frustrated with our lack of initiative, because we're so willing to take whatever they're willing to offer to continue to entertain them. And it's very difficult when because we all work with someone, right? But it's very difficult for me to watch someone who has a person that they're reporting to who has zero interest in that person as a human being, who has zero interest in what that person is going through in their community, and has the audacity to try to give them something in return when that's not what they asked for. We've been begging for so long, and now we're at the point where we're getting ready to demand. And now all of a sudden, you see little cracks now. You see people starting to offer things, and what they're offering is anything to keep you from doing what they're afraid you're going to do, which is stop doing what you're doing that they love so much. I always tell people, this is what I tell people. I say, you look at a professional team. The person who owns a professional team is a billionaire. What does he do every day? He does not work. He has a lot of money, but he does not work. His passion. He doesn't have a lot of passion. What makes him get up every day? He has a team that he can watch perform. He brings his friends to see them. That is who he is. That is his identity. That is what gets him inspired. Your ability, your talent. You take that away from him, he doesn't have much. People don't realize what the value of what people do in someone's lives. They don't understand the importance of what people do in someone's lives. And it's invaluable. And at the minute we start to monetize what we do, it's literally priceless. And so once we figure out our value and understand how much we're worth, we'll stop giving them things for free and start demanding that we be heard. Because this whole thing right now, it's just like a cycle. It's a psychological cycle. We sit there, and I know it's embarrassing. They talked about the NBA players. They said how many of them were actually registered to vote. A lot of them are young guys. They don't have the initiative, but that's okay. It's never too late to change things and to right the ship. So what we have to do, and the reason I bring up athletes, because that they were the first ones to break into the mainstream society. They were the ones that came across because they realized that they could not do what they did, and it was apparent to them that they were superior. So they allowed everyone to sort of segregate into this, and now everything else has followed suit. So what we have to realize is that if you look at that, that's a key. That's where we started, and that's where our power is. So let's utilize it. Let's not pretend that we can't stop doing what we're doing for a minute to get their attention, because we can't.
Can I say something else?
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
We call each other brother and sister. When we see each other walking down the street, we give a head nod, right? So we are our brother and sister's keepers. For those that think your vote doesn't count, can you vote for me? Can you vote for your cousin? Can you vote for Erica? Is there a way that you can get over yourself, even if you think it doesn't matter for you, as my brother or my sister? Can you vote because I think it's important? Can you take that step for me? And if enough people do that because we love each other in the same way we're all putting masks on to protect each other, those of us with sense, we're putting masks on. Your vote is the mask for this nation right now. Can you put your mask on?
Yeah.
That's your vote.
Yeah.
Do it for other people. It's not about you. It's about us. Do it for us.
You know, I'm so glad you said that, because I've always believed that people who don't vote, who know better, are just selfish. You know, if I didn't vote, maybe the president wouldn't make a difference to me, because I'm at an age where I have worked hard. I have had a good education. I've had good jobs. But I have nieces and nephews who are in schools that are not the best. I have a mother who's 89 years old who is on Social Security and Medicare. I have neighbors up the street with cancer and other illnesses who need health care. And so for me to not vote for them is selfish. I agree with you 100%. The other thing I have found, and you can help me address this, is people who need to vote the most are generally the people who vote the least. So in our communities where our schools are not the best, those parents need to be voting so that we can determine who's on the school board, who the mayor of the city is. You know, those people who come in contact with our judicial system, they need to be voting, because we need to know what judges are going to be sitting on the bench and determining what happens to their lives. So tell me why you think, or no, better yet, tell me what you think we can do or say to galvanize people to get out to vote. Is there an issue we need to be addressing? Is there some suggestion that you have that we can grab hold to them and say, now this is what you need to go and vote for?
Yeah.
Is there something, or
Yeah,
is it
yeah,
just a matter of, go ahead, Mike.
quickly, I think you're onto something. And I was thinking about this with some friends of mine. I think you're onto something. I think at the bottom of it all, and it hurts to say, but the people are lazy sometimes. You know, when you go to vote, you look at these ballots and you look at the people on the ballot, the homework, the research that it takes to find out who these people are, what their track records are, what they stand for, who they're affiliated with. These people, and I hate to say it, it's not just Black people, it's anyone. They don't do the research. So for some people, when you vote blindly, it doesn't matter. For us, it's a huge difference to vote in the right way as opposed to voting the wrong way. It takes time. So I know this is, I mean, you can't tell people who to vote for, but I think it's very important this election. And I want to try to find a way to do this, even on my own platform, because I think I have to vote early, because, you know, if you're going to vote mail-in ballots, I think the thing is to give them the example, hey, I'm already voting. Like as soon as you're available to vote, just like as soon as you're available to get a colon exam, you're the first person in line.
Okay.
You show them that. You say, hey, it's time. I've done it already. Now you have another month, but I've done it, and this is how early I've done it. But also to give them an idea of who the candidates are. You know, to do a little synopsis on the candidates. There's some red flags with some candidates that'll immediately cross them off your list for some people, and so they should be aware of those candidates. And I think this year, especially locally and wherever you live, we have to find a way to galvanize and find a way to give them a cheat sheet. This is what it is. You can vote the way you want to vote, but this person has done this person has done that, this person is related to this person has sent this person to jail, this person has voted this on this critical issue, and this person has voted this way. And I think it will help people, because when they sit down, they're overwhelmed, because this checking boxes is not going to help us. All they know is the president. We need to get on the local officials, and we need to know exactly who we're voting for. And however we can do that to help people, to make it easier for them, I think it's going to make them a lot less overwhelmed and intimidated.
And I think that's something, you know, not just pertaining to this election, but in general, because like Mike said, you know, yeah, on one level there is you know, the apathy, there is the laziness, but then there's also only so many hours in the day, and the amount of research that it takes, you know, to figure out who these local officials are, and like you said, find out what their record is. It's a lot of work. And I've always just wondered, how there, if there can be some kind of system where there's more of an outreach for these local officials, to reach out to voters, because it's especially when you're only used to being spoon-fed information from the presidential campaign. I think a lot of people don't even know really how to go about.
But you know what? Mal? I think, sorry to interrupt, but I think that that's why it's important for those of us that have a platform to use it. If you have 1 million people following you and you have the time to do some research, retweet people, retweet articles that talk about things. I retweet all different reps all across the country. If I see someone in a hearing doing something crazy, I ask Twitter, who's running against this person? And then I go and donate to that person and then tell everybody, this is the person running against that clown. So I think it's important for us to, those that can, it's all about, all hands on deck, and you work the lane that you're in, right? So if you don't have the time, sorry, I'm trying to keep my dog together while I'm doing this, I'm reaching down. If you don't have the time to do the research, follow people that you respect who do the research. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with reading an article because Erica Alexander said you should read it. She's already proven that she does her research. So read what Erica's reading to get yourself started. We're not in a desert of information. I will hear a song on television and I will get out Shazam and I will find it in 2 seconds. I'm Googling the lyrics and in 5 minutes I'm singing along. There is too many ways for us to get from point A to point B. Just go, I don't know what's going on. If you care about it, you find out about it. And we need to care about our schools and the climate and the water. All of these things affect our day-to-day lives. We're acting as if it's some mythical thing way off in the future, but it's not. It's right now. All of this stuff is happening right now, and we are literally dying.
To be clear, Yvette, thank you. I've hacked the system. The hack is that I do exactly what Malcolm is saying. And Yvette, I actually look at people who know what her interests are similar to mine, who I trust, and then I vote for who they say I should vote for. And I tell you, I have never been sorry for that. It has been an amazing thing because there are people and organizations, grassroots, nonpartisan, that literally go on the internet and they'll list the candidates and say, this is who we recommend. And you can say, I like that organization, and then take your little cheat sheet and put it down, and then you go in there and you rock it out. Because it is difficult, especially they live in California. There's different propositions. Malcolm's totally right that it's very difficult to do the research, but there are people who've done it for you. And Michael's also right to say that there's a general sort of laziness to how we approach these things. But if we take some effort, there will people who meet you more than halfway. They'll help you get there. I'd also like to say that I got to give a shout out to the Poor People's Campaign, because Congresswoman, what you were saying about how do we get people who have not traditionally been invited to the party? Reverend Barber is doing that work. Yes, he's going into the Delta, he's going into the Blue Ridge Mountains and the Appalachian Mountains and asking the poorest people who have not been invited to the table to not only come, but to also change the game. It was the work that Martin Luther King was doing right before he got killed and assassinated, as you know. He's taken up as co-chair of that famous rally and march and moved it forward. The whole point of that is fusion politics. Fusion politics is to make a grand coalition of Black, brown, women, disabled, that type of marginalized communities, to make this sort of coalition that could change the political landscape for 50 years and more. And I think that we need to help people like that who are doing the work. You talk about giving to campaigns and also supporting. They are doing the work, and we also need to, in this election, go and ask people who are not traditionally asked, just ask them and make the thing, make our case, because they did that in Kentucky, and you can see the changes in Kentucky when they did. It changed, it flipped everything over there. So I think that we should also do that too, and also acknowledge the people on the ground who've made a path already.
And also extend grace to those that have not yet entered the fray. I agree with Malcolm, I agree with Mike, I agree with Erica. It is scary to decide, because if we tell you that your vote matters, then you're gonna get in that booth and go, my vote matters, and you're gonna be nervous. So I understand that too. So you have to extend grace to those that either have never voted or who have gotten out of the habit of voting, and just ask around, like, you have a plan? Because this year we have to have a plan. So do you have a plan for how you're gonna vote? And if the person's like, I don't really, then walk them through it. each one teach one. Be your brother and sister's keeper, and don't be hateful and shady for those that have that tapped out, because there's enough in this world to make us depressed and not want to play. So I want to make sure I say that too, because I come really forceful, but I understand it. I really do.
Listen, Mike and Malcolm, let me ask you this question first. We have a woman of color on the ballot this time. We find that Black women vote in significantly larger numbers than Black men. Do you think that there is a gender issue, or what do you think the issue is that prevents as many Black men from being engaged in the process as there are Black women?
I think to a higher degree, you look at research, and I'm pretty sure about this, that, Black women are more educated, college educated. They tend to know their stuff. They're well read, they're well informed. And I think that plays a big factor in how involved they are in the community. Because when you talk about the list by which of importance, and who, forgive me, gets the least amount of respect and has the most to lose or gain by any election, is Black women. They are disproportionately affected in every way. So I think that is first and foremost. I think I was watching something the other day talking about it, because yes, Black men are obviously an endangered species, or we are dealing with a lot of our own issues, but we're still men in society. And I think we forget how vulnerable it is to be a Black woman. You're a woman, man, that's a whole other issue. When you're a Black woman, there's more things to consider. And so they're really dialed in. And I think that's great. And I think, going back to, being your brother and sister's keeper, we have to find ways to, if anybody can get through to the Black man about voting and to massaging them into getting them to the polls, is Black women. They usually are great instructors and great partners. And I think they have to they sort of have to usher them in, because it is one of those things. Maybe it is an ego thing. How much, because a lot of times we have this issue with being strong, but not knowing or understanding where our strength lies. A lot of times we think our strength lies in physicality. We think our strength lies in the way we talk, the way we do certain things. And really, it's the things that people don't see, being a good father at home, voting. These are the things that are the fabric of the community. And once we get dialed into that, I think it's going to make a big difference. So, by all means, it's not surprising at all that Black women vote in a bigger number, and they usually have a zero tolerance for any BS when it comes to candidates. They say what they mean and mean what they say. And I hope we get to see a lot more Black women out to the polls, but I bring their brothers and fathers and boyfriends and husbands and friends along, because they do know what they're doing usually.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think Black men and Black women lead in different ways. I think what we Black men tend to do, especially when we have partners in Black women who have a lot of sense and know what they're doing, we trust in that. There is I think, for whatever reason, and I think, kind of to piggyback what Michael was saying, it's in terms of there just really needs to be, I think, more of a drive in Black women, because there is a recognition of the power that they have, and also not wanting to be about the BS. And I think Black women have a lot of influence on Black men because they're really they're doing a lot of the work, and oftentimes we just need a good woman to listen to and to follow along.
I like that. I like that a lot. So sisters, let me ask you this question. Then how do we empower our men? Because we all need to come to this together. We all need to come to this table together. How do we empower Black men to know that they are so integral to saving the Black community that we look to them for example as well? What do we do to help get those numbers up?
Oh, I mean, aside from reminding them, that they're royalty and that we love them and we need them, and that we need them in this particular fight. I think also because Black men revere us so much, they sometimes will defer things like this to their woman. You know, she got it. She's going to go. I know she's going to go vote for who she needs to vote for. So we're good. This is a thing like, no, baby, I need you to go to the polls with me. Now I need you, I'm filling out my registration. I need to make sure you fill out your registration. Let's do it together. And, you know, we all know the way to talk to a Black man to have them hear us. So we have to put that tone of voice on, or that, you know, whatever that is, to make sure that they understand, oh, this is important. This is not a game. This is important. And, you know, you tie it into things like things that they care about. Maybe you bring up Colin Kaepernick and what he did 4 years ago that has led to what LeBron and everyone is doing now, and the WNBA is doing now. Maybe it's a sports way you get in. There's a way in. Maybe you talk about, you know, the fact we got to homeschool these kids, and they might be driving you crazy. If we had better people in office, maybe they could go to school. So let's go on down here and vote right quick, so we can get the right people in, so we can get these kids back in school. Whatever it is in your household or in your life or your friend circle, you use that. You know, again, I think just saying, can you do it for me? Can you do it for your mom? Can you do it for your best friend? I feel like that's enough. I often do things that I don't necessarily want to do if it's for the benefit of someone else. So I think we have to lean on that, but I'd love to hear what Erica has to say.
I've thought about this, and for one thing, I think that the first thing is to co-sign and support exactly what Malcolm and Martin, I'm sorry, Lord, I'm in back in the days, Michael and Malcolm have said. You're absolutely right. But I also remind them that they are the warrior class. They are supposed to be the person at the door. And so that if there's a wolf there, they're the first ones to throw their body in front of it and say, not here. And I think that the world has taken so much from Black people, but what it's taken from our men was their sense of their unique masculinity to say, I know you may not be getting your props left and right, but here you matter. So do your job. Do your job and stop that from coming into our door. You can't change the world, but help us do that. And then we can help you become less of a person who's targeted on the street. Change the narrative so George Floyd is seen as a man and not an animal who's disposable, or be hunted down like Ahmaud Arbery. You want to protect Breonna Taylor? Let's change those rules that say you can break through somebody's door and kill them. You are the warrior class. They play you as the warrior class everywhere except with your intelligence and your vote. They want you to be on the field, taking the hits. They want you to have the damage from all the sports to your knees, your back. They want your song, your voice. They want your mind. They want your beat. They want James Brown to put the beat on the one, but they don't want his intelligence. And I'm telling them that they are the warrior class. They've come a long way. They should not abandon that for anybody. And they need to accept that now women, as capable as we are, and as you say, educated in all these things that we've gotten ourselves to, we don't do it without our warrior class. And we need our warrior class to come back to themselves and be the Martin, the Malcolm, the James Baldwins, all those people that we used to hold to the line. And I really believe that gladiator class is real. And it's not playing to, oh, women can't be strong and all that. That's not it. They are the ones who are supposed to be the first ones. If there's going to be blood on the dance floor, they got to be first. And so that means vote. The vote is, they should be first in line.
Let me say this too. You know, I'm a former mayor, and so I've dealt with police forces. I've hired, I've fired. And let me just say this to both of our brothers here. You don't know the strength you have. Do you know half the time these police officers attack because they are afraid? They are afraid of your strength. When they see you, they shake. They are afraid. The only people who don't realize your strength is you. And so I just think that it is important, especially for these young brothers. And that's, Mike, I'm so glad you talked about the athletes and that. There are certain people that young men look up to. It's not me. I mean, there are a few, you know, young elected officials out here who I help, but they look up to you. And so I think at some point that we all have to put somebody on our back and carry them. And it's time that all of us together carry those people we can and expect those who follow us to do the same thing. But they are not going to follow me, but they will follow you. So I'm going to ask all of you this question as we prepare to close this out. Tell me what each of you think we can or should be doing right now to get our numbers up as Black people, as a race of Black people, not men or women, but a race of Black people. How do we engage young people to understand that without their voices, we get what we get? You know, if people think that they don't have to answer to you, they don't. If we don't believe your vote, you don't count. So what do we do to encourage, especially young people, that this is the time for them to let their voices be heard and to make a difference, because we can? Anybody that wants to start, please just feel free.
I think that we remind them that the people that are making decisions right now are dying out, right? Climate change will affect the young people more than it will affect me. By the time it gets real hot, I'm gonna be gone. So all of the things, you know, the ones that can't go to school right now, they can't go to school right now because of decisions that older people made. Like this is the schools that are getting shot up because of decisions that older people made. So I think there's this fallacy that this is the 40 and ups world. No, it's the 40 and down. It's your world. What do you want your world to be? You have an ability to affect change right now. If you're 18, what do you want? Who do you want leading you? Forget about us. Do it for you. Do it for you. This is your world. Yeah. The craziest thing to me is climate change. If that's not enough to get every young person out there voting, I don't know what will. It literally is getting hotter every single day.
Oh, yeah.
I want the men to have the last word, so I'm just going to say this really quickly. I just want to say, well, Ms. Congressman's going to have the last word, but it would. The thing is I want to remind them they don't have the right. They haven't earned the right. Frankly, I want to be a little tougher on them. They haven't earned the right to set this out. And however jaded and or apathetic they might be, they haven't even earned the right to have that attitude. When you can see the pictures of people like John Lewis and Martin Luther King and what they gave life and limb in order for us to be here, then I'm going to tell them to get up. If I have any sort of, I'm coming to take you there. You can curse me all the way, but we go in there. You go in that booth, you do what you need to do, and we go. You know, as you say, it's your vote, your voice. You can do what you like in there, but you're not going to sit this out. And I'm going to make sure you get there like I make sure you get to school or to the doctor or any of those other place. And I'm going to put it in their lives like that. And then again, I'll do it as long as I need to, as long until you call me and say, Auntie, I'm coming pick you up. I'm like, okay, thank you. Now the tables have turned, and I like to say they have not earned that right, and I would remind them of that.
Yeah, I'm 100% where you know, I'm 100% with the environment thing. I think that's where we have to leave it. I think we have to tell the younger generation that ultimately it isn't our world anymore. We're in the middle of something right now, a pandemic, and it's not probably going to be the last. It's probably the first one, and there will be more. And I think that they have to understand that the people that are making decisions right now are not leaving anything on the table for them. Their world is going to be dramatically affected. The climate change, the water source, the air we breathe, everything is happening exponentially. We're talking about wildfires. We're talking about Arizona, 110 degrees, 50 days in a row. We're talking about viruses that are coming from food that we can't even eat the food anymore. And if it's this way, I don't see 50 years anymore. I mean, this may happen in my lifetime. We're talking the next 20 years. If we're this bad now, where will our food source be in 20 years? So people who can vote right now, they're literally voting for the right to have a decent life when they're my age, not way down the road. We're talking about in a generation. This is happening much faster than we expect. And I think we're sort of taking it lightly. Because the people that are making decisions, most of them don't care. They don't care about their grandkids or their children. You know, they don't have 20 years. They don't think about it in terms of more than, oh, what can I have this year? And so the young voters, the millennials, the Generation X or whatever they're called, it's more important for them to vote than for me, you, anyone in their 40s, because we have had a time where we remember when the world was good and we had a time to have fun. Right now, I can't imagine. I know people who are college students. Imagine being in college You're stuck in your dorm room or your home, and you're on Zoom, and this is your life. This is your experience in college, your freshman year. My niece, her first year in college is going to be living with her parents on Zoom. This is not the environment that I remember my freshman year. I would go back to my undergrad in a minute. I had such a great time. The life that you lead as a young person should be full of promise and excitement for the future. This is not the world that we have right now for them. So it's more important for them to change it now than ever, because who wants to grow up like this? I got kids who wants to grow up like this? I feel guilty. It's honestly, I have friends who are thinking about having kids. I feel guilty bringing kids into this world. I mean, think about what you're doing. Think about what we have in store for us in the direction we're going right now. And we keep saying we're going to change, and we keep saying we're going to do different things. And you see that explosion in Beirut. Look at the explosion in Beirut. People talk about these kind of things. You saw that explosion. People don't think about the ramifications of what that does to the environment. We're blowing stuff up all the time, burning things up all the time. The rainforest, we're just destroying this planet. And the elites think they can just go somewhere else. So just think about that. Think about the world that you're in, what you want to have, because they're trying to destroy it.
Thank you. Malcolm?
Hey, Mike, I have a 3-year-old daughter, so I think about that all the time. It's like I waited till this time to bring another human into this world. So that's constantly on my mind. I think there are people who hold very deep misogynistic, homophobic, racist attitudes who somehow began to feel disenfranchised and felt like their voices were not being heard. And now we're in a time where those people feel quite emboldened to spew those particular beliefs. And they feel emboldened because 4 years ago, they voted and they made their voices heard. And I think we're at a time where, so we see what happens when you make your voice heard. And I think we're at a time now where, young people, as everyone else has already said, really have to, take stock and look around and see what this country is like, see what this environment is like, see what the mental, spiritual environment is like, and make the choice to make a change, to make their voices heard, because those same people that I just mentioned, they are going to vote. No matter how many hours they have to stand in line, they are going to make sure they vote, and they're going to do everything they can in their power to never feel disenfranchised again. So it's up to every last one of us, at whatever, the moment we get the opportunity to vote, it's up for every last one of us to make our voices heard, because we are, we're battling a mentality that has no intention of going away.
Thank you. Let me just say a few words as I prepare to wrap this up. I certainly hope that any young person watching this will realize the power of the vote, because if they don't, we will always be the quote unquote essential workers, those who work in the grocery stores and are the people who are the sanitation workers and the postal workers. Not that those are bad jobs, but those are jobs right now that they can't work from home. I can work from home right now. We are disproportionately in positions where we are dying from this disease because we live in dense communities. We live with generations in houses. We're always on the front lines. We are put in positions so often because of our lack of power, or let me not say lack of, but our failure to use our power. And so the only way things will change is if we change them. I forget who it was that said it, but I've already had an education. So if the education system were to fail today, it would not affect me, but it would affect that 18-year-old that's coming out of high school right now. I already own my own home. I drive a car. Things that you think and you take for granted are things that we must impress upon young people. To have the quality of life they want, they have to take an action. You can't just sit at home and curse the darkness. You have to do something. And if that something is just going up the street to the polling place and voting, then that something is huge. Because if we don't start to pick the people who lead this nation, who lead our cities, who lead our states, we will always forever be in a position where we will take what somebody gives us. And I think, Michael, you said that. So it is our time. It is their time, because they are the only hope we have. And if there is any pride in a people, it is the pride we're going to have to get from them, because I am tired. We have fought our battles. It is time for them to take the baton and run the rest of the way. Because if they don't, as a race of people, I don't know what will happen to us. And so as I close, I'm just going to say, first off, thank you all so, so much. I am so passionate about this because I see so many young people who can't find their way. I represent an awful lot of young people who are poor, who come from poor schools, but they are my hope. And so whatever we can do individually, collectively, to make them know that their vote and their voice matter, we must do. So use your network, your bully pulpit, your whatever you choose to call it, to impress upon them that they are the only hope we have. And I know I've said much too much. I'm going to close this. I thank you all so very, very much. I have been excited about this since I heard who was going to be on the panel, and you delivered. You absolutely delivered. Thank you all.
Thanks for having
Thank you.
us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.